Welcome to the acclaimed podcast, The Deep Dive, featuring your esteemed hosts, Andy Monitor and Drew Dinzik, powered by BetSperts.
Welcome to The Deep Dive. Well, then there were two. We know our Super Bowl, and a lot of ways we can go recapping yesterday's action. It was a weird day of football. It was a little uneven. Didn't really feel like the highest of quality football that we've gotten in all year, but that's okay. It was
a good day. Good day for hot takes on the timeline.
Yeah,
between the why in the hell did they not make this team carry three quarterbacks, to the Wiregate, to the reffing constantly, to the NFL is rigged, to the timeline was on fire, which is what happens every Sunday, honestly. But it was especially good last week, and it kind of makes you wonder too, like if we had like 2 more weeks, or just someone was healed up a little faster, if it happened a little earlier, do you think does Jimmy Garoppolo step in and it's like, hey, you remember earlier in the year when Teddy was healthy, but they didn't start him because he wasn't all that healthy? If it was a situation like that, Purdy's in, elbow's fucked up.
Yeah.
They put in Garoppolo. Does he I think for sure the game is close because he's a good enough game manager, and we've seen it work with all the quarterbacks that aren't Josh Johnson. And Christian McCaffrey.
Josh Johnson's been around for what?
3 weeks? Since 2003, man.
No, he hasn't been on the team for very long. I don't know what you expected more than that. Honestly, Andy, it felt like it was still in the balance on the first play of the last Niners drive of the half.
Oh, for sure.
Josh Johnson threw. Yeah, sure. Josh Johnson threw right to Deebo Samuel. The Niners were down 7. Josh threw right to Deebo Samuel. Samuel came very close to breaking the only tackle that would have stopped him from taking that to the house. It was a very, very close call on that tackle. And then the next play, Josh Johnson fumbles. The Eagles convert that to a touchdown, and the game is effectively over at that point. So it really felt like it kind of went sideways for the Niners in just a very, very, very brief time window. I think your point is fair. If Garoppolo was available for relief, and he comes in, he's definitely going to do a better job than Brock Purdy, who could not throw. He's definitely going to do a better job than Christian McCaffrey being coached on the sidelines how to run the Wildcat. Once Josh Johnson was concussed, it was literally I think basically I would have gone for any other plan than what they ultimately did.
In his head, as soon as I saw his head, the replay where it bounced hard, I'm like, man,
that's it.
I'm like 80-20. He's not coming back today.
Yeah. And
you did see Purdy, the whole time he was doing some warm up stuff on the sidelines, but he just never was able to grip the ball properly. Apparently there's injuries where your hand is essentially numb.
Yeah.
After you injure certain things in your elbow, and apparently it wasn't ever going to happen there. So kind of a downer. And also for us as bettors, as handicappers, analyzers of the NFL, it makes it very difficult to analyze this Eagles team.
Yes.
Because last we saw, and granted, Gardner Minshew was starting these games, but they lost a game to the Saints where it was not really all that competitive, despite the score wasn't that big. That felt like a very ugly loss where a lot of things went wrong outside of the quarterback position. They lost the game before that, which, granted, that was the kind of the peak of the Cowboys offense. And then the final game of the season where Hurts came back, they didn't look very convincing against a team that was resting a lot of players.
Was that Davis Webb?
Yeah. And then you get to the playoffs, and yes, they got the bye, and people are like, oh my God, the easiest path ever. Well, get the 1 seed, things will be easier. That's just life. Look who's in the Super Bowl. It's the 1 seeds. But, and it really did come in from a spot where they had extra time to prepare for a Giants team that clearly wasn't on the same level as them.
Yeah.
And then the game just started in such a way that it put any team in a bad position because the Eagles, as successful as they've been this year running the ball through everybody, and as successful as they've been pass rushing, they're the worst, one of the worst teams to get down to. There's teams that, all right, we're down 14. We can come back on these schmucks. Eagles are not it. So that game got out of hand almost from the get-go. And then we run into quarterback gate in the Niners. So I have no idea how good the Eagles are. I know I saw 13 weeks where this is a really, really good team. There was some injury, there was some injury regression. There were some problems. They brought in some extra pieces on the D-line for, run stuffing that helped, but it's been hard to evaluate exactly how good this team is going into the Super Bowl. I was hoping, because the Niners have been good, we'd have a good game to kind of get our bearings on that one way or the other. I was hoping, Eagles by 7, but we learned something. That was not what we got. Eagles, in the first half, we did see a little of this and that. And as Brett so poignantly pointed out in the chat, the Niners did contain Hurts to a bit of a pocket passer, and he's not as good if he's not creating. That's not his, that's not his MO. That's not his strength. But at the same time, they were able to kind of get what they want. They didn't really pressure him all that much. And then on top of it all, and I'll kind of turn this one over to you now, there's a decent chance that shoulder injury was re-aggravated.
Yeah.
On a couple of times. And then, to prove that point, they just stopped throwing the ball, which you can say, well, they were ahead by big. Like, why not just run? Well, because they were running one of their best assets instead of, maybe some Boston Scott carries at that point instead of 6 rushing attempts for Jalen Hurts on that one drive. It was an odd game to say the least. And yeah, like I said, I came out of it with more questions than answers.
Yeah, I don't even know what the Eagles' best win of this season was. Was it beating the Packers 40-33?
I mean, I will say, and this was earlier in the season, I mean, pitching a shutout against the Vikings offense in the second half.
Yeah.
Say what you want about the Vikings. Their offense wasn't usually the problem.
Yeah.
That was a nice, and it was early in the season. That was probably week 3. That one, Detroit, limiting that offense a little bit. So it's
beating the Jags by 8 points when you got 5 turnovers.
Yeah, that one was good. That one showed that they had some resiliency, which they might need next 2 weeks from now. But yeah, this I don't know how good this team is at this point. I still think they're very good, but I'm very concerned about the Hurts injury. And now we get 2 weeks to figure it out.
Yeah. Did you have any more reflections on the actual game between the Eagles and Niners, or is it a time wasted to even really dive into this? Because I guess I didn't really love how I mean, the first touchdown drive was obviously, I don't know, was that a catch? The 29-yarder to Smith?
No. But I mean, it was such a weird, I don't know how they didn't have that angle sooner.
I don't
That
either.
might change things, obviously things get missed every week, but
that was a 4th and 3, right?
Yeah, that was a kind of a big one.
That was a big one. They get a touchdown, and it's a rushing touchdown. Good job, 7-0. Then they forced the fumble and hurt Purdy, and then even then, it was still felt like they kind of couldn't really get going. Right, back-to-back drives that they punted, some weird sloppy penalties, and actually, sorry, back-to-back drives where they punted. They only gained like a total of 10 yards between 3 drives there. They conceded a touchdown drive to the Niners, and that was sort of the wake-up call. I thought the touchdown drive they had to go up 14-7 was very impressive. That was sort of classic, exactly how I like the Eagles to kind of do a drive. They go for it on 4th and 1 on their own 34, and they get the 2 yards. Like that's, a high leverage, high probability play on a when you can kind of really get it. And they had a bunch of thirds in that one that I thought they just did good play calling. And then as I mentioned, like right before the half, if Deebo Samuel breaks that tackle, he's going to the house, and then you got a tie ball game at half instead of a 2-touchdown lead. The Niners kind of quit after that. They were doing a lot of ridiculous things from a just causing penalties standpoint, getting into fights, letting their frustration boil over. But it's still like 31-7 didn't really seem to spell how disparate the two teams were, with one team having a quarterback and the team not. And yeah, like you mentioned, Hurts may have gotten re-injured in that game, but even if he didn't get re-injured, some of his deep balls lacked touch. There were some absolutely
a lot of his
there.
throws in general lacked a little bit for me.
Yeah,
the accuracy was lower than I was hoping for from him. Obviously,
yeah,
we're backing him.
I feel the same way. I didn't come out of that game at all with an upgrade on the Eagles. In fact, I thought there was some real concern about what you saw from Hurts, about him being able to go toe for toe. His completion percentage over expectation in that game, minus 2.6%. EPA per play, barely in the positive. A lot of that came on the ground. His ADOT was pretty high in the game. But ultimately, most of his, a lot of his EPA per play passing was 1.09. His EPA per play rushing was 0.12.
It was a true Murphy's Law kind of day for the Niners. Like, Bosa just standing there getting like leg whipped on the sidelines.
That was crazy.
Like, because I was doing stuff and trying to pay attention to some other things, looking at Discord, looking at Twitter, and like, how did Bosa get injured? They haven't even run a defensive play here. Yeah, and it was like, I'm like, he's not in on special teams. There's no reason for that. And then they show him like, oh, that's just awful luck, I guess. Such is life. I guess que sera, sera. The Niners are gone. Sucks for them. And yeah, it's one of those two where I'm a bit of a fatalist when it comes to my bets. Like, I'm always looking for, oh man, if this happens, and then that happens, and then suddenly I'm probably losing this game. And I just couldn't do it. Like, this is like the one spot where the Eagles could have been up by 10, and I'd have been like, I can just go watch something else now. Yeah. Because the fact that they put Purdy back in and he wasn't able to throw, it's like, this is unwatchable at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, it was not entertaining. I didn't watch a lot of it. I'll be honest with you. Other than just, I had eyes on Hurts every time the Eagles had the ball because I was trying to get a read. I don't think we really know what's going on with him, how healthy he is, whether he's going to be able to operate high level at the quarterback position when we get to the playoffs. When we get to the Super Bowl, because we just haven't seen him do anything in the playoffs. He had 30 dropbacks in this game. His success rate was meh. His first down percent was meh.
Yeah, he has not hit 300 yards passing yet in the playoffs.
Yeah. And it's not this game, for instance, wasn't even really for lack of trying. 25 attempts for him in a game here, 4.8 per. Just not a lot to be excited about with this Hurts performance, which is really what's confusing. But okay, so then the flip side is, are the Eagles on paper the more talented team? And the answer is yes. Outside of the quarterback position, this is one of the most talented teams in the NFL, if not the most. Like, this team is absolutely loaded to the gills. The offensive line all did their jobs. They were incredible. The defensive line, exactly what you expected out of them. Hassan Reddick was an absolute fucking monster. They tackled well. They didn't let the yak become an issue. As I mentioned, like, I thought the key tackle of the game was taking down Deebo Samuel at the end of the first half there. Deebo Samuel couldn't really do anything all game.
They were able to bottle him nicely. That was encouraging if you're an Eagles backer. But I mean, just from like you said, outside of the quarterback position, like, there's a lot of spots in this field where you have to give the nod to the Eagles, but man, the quarterback position is such a heavy weight on this.
Big check in favor of the Chiefs. Yeah.
If this is like, if the injuries don't go the Chiefs' way, and like Marcus Kemp is your third wide receiver, second wide receiver, I'm gonna give them the nod with Brown and Smith.
Yeah.
So and they probably get the nod anyway. Although I will say, if you want to just go receivers in general, if the Chiefs are healthy, everybody's on the field, it's not as big of a gap as I think, because Travis Kelce is, I mean, he's a receiver, let's face it. And he's very good at finding his way open, despite everybody should know. Like, hey, let's put another hat on him. Let's not put a D end on him. Let's not put our slowest linebacker on him.
Because that was a lot of the second half. Like, we'll put two guys on him every single time.
But it's a lot easier once you start dropping wide receivers.
Yeah,
like,
right. Yeah.
Well, should we cover Kelsey or we should cover Marcus Kemp?
Yeah.
Like, well, let's let whoever handle this game.
Yeah. Okay, so Josh Johnson wasn't the answer. Christian McCaffrey had one of the funnier plays with his pass attempts.
He rocketed that ball.
He threw that ball over them damn mountains to no one. What'd you think of the Trent Williams suplex?
I loved it.
It was kind of everything you were hoping for if you're a hardcore Niners fan, because that was all your frustrations in one play.
Yeah, like at that point, the game is like you lost. Your season's done. At least you got to see your guy just fucking
really fucking.
I mean, he really tossed it down.
Really
like big brother, little brother kind of thing. Like your little brother bugs you enough where you finally just put him down.
If you get tossed like that, don't you just have immunity if you start throwing punches? Like how do you get tossed and then get ejected? That was kind of weird. I feel like that was an undeserved ejection.
I feel like that guy probably had the wind knocked out of him.
Yeah, right. Like you're fighting for your life at that point. Anyway, it was a mess of a game. Eagles. The second half went quickly. The second half under was solid. Speaking of good looks, I do think the Eagles were the right side, irrespective of quarterback position. We don't get to do any kind of grave dancing on Brock Purdy because he was perfect this game. 4 for 4. Andy did not have an incompleted pass all game, although he did have a key fumble. I will say that in general, the Eagles coaching, I liked it, but they had some scheme questions, particularly early in the game, that I didn't think they were really utilizing their strengths until, kind of the Niners sort of gave up. I will say that, Eagles first half, Eagles second half, Eagles first half, Eagles full time, both solid ways to play this one.
Never really in doubt. It almost bothers me. Like, I love the money. Money's nice. We won all the bets we made on the Eagles, but it does suck that we don't get to do hey, Brock Purdy finally had a bad day. Hey, Shanahan was conservative in big moments. Like I don't want to be a told you so guy. I want my handicap to be, vindicated.
Just at least vindicated, or at least tested. Yeah, right.
At least tested. Yeah, so it was, like I said, the biggest takeaway is like it's hard to evaluate anything coming out of this game. At a big degree. Certainly, like you talk about Jalen Hurts' passing and a few other things and how they were able to run the ball at certain times, but it did leave a lot to be desired.
It did.
And Kansas City hasn't faced very many good run offenses. So
yeah, that's true.
That is a little worrisome in 2 weeks for
any closing thoughts on that game?
No.
Okay. The night game was much more entertaining. This is now, in my opinion, the best rivalry in football. Joe Burrow versus Pat Mahomes is appointment television from here into perpetuity.
No, this is, we're getting Brady Manning again, where it's like, these guys are probably meeting up. It's never going to be the first weekend of the playoffs. Hopefully it's the third. Yep. And this is fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say that as a heavy staker of the Chiefs in this game, my comfort level was I felt real good real early, and then it just went right back to 50-50, and then there was a lot of moments in the fourth quarter of this game I thought the Chiefs were surely going to lose.
After the punt, I had kind of given up on. I didn't have anything on them in the game outside of some live positions, but
I was like, well,
I had some futures.
OT is going to be interesting.
Yeah,
that was a nervy performance by the Chiefs, certainly.
I do have a bone to pick on this one.
Go ahead.
And I have to phrase this right because I get it. It's almost like the unwritten rules thing in baseball, but we saw a lot of takes after the game because, what happened on the second to last play? We had the run out of bounds by Mahomes, and he got hit late. And I saw a lot of takes where people said, you can't call that. You can't decide a game by the refs. It's like, you can't call that. No, I can see it on some real ticky-tack stuff where it's like a 50-50 call or, maybe I call holding more than the average line judge or whatever. And maybe I have to put it in my pocket on that one. But I mean, it was just such a clear penalty, and he had both feet out of bounds well before he got hit. And really, the argument where these people are making and saying you can't let a ref decide the game, well, the opposite is true too, and it's completely proven. The point is proven by the Saints-Rams game.
Yeah,
we're still talking about that. As the great Geddy Lee said, if you how's that go? If you don't decide, you still have made a choice.
Yes.
Like deciding not to call that is just as much of a referee having a huge impact on the game as not calling that at that point. Because when it's that clear, the referee putting that in his pocket just because it's late in the game is it's way worse for the game, in my opinion. It sucks. I'd love to see every game decided on a crazy play that, nothing but absolute athleticism and skill. But sometimes people make boneheaded mistakes and they call penalties. So and as Holland Oates is, God damn it, you made me read your name, Holland Oates. It's a joke name. He's pointing out, he's like, if they can't call it, how dirty would teams get coached to be in that situation?
That's the Belichick.
Just take your chance.
That's
the Belichick.
Coaching up his D-backs to maul, Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne. Like, that was the strategy. They can't call every time, so do it every time. Like, that's why we are where we are.
It's a tough one, but I just think it's when people say the ref can't decide the game, it's like, but the exact opposite will happen if he decides to put that in his pocket. You are deciding, you're deciding that, probably we go to overtime at that point. Obviously it's not just giving it to the Bengals, but it's a huge disservice to the Chiefs at that point.
Yeah. I all your points are fair.
Yeah. I went to the end of the game. We'll work our way backwards.
And I think in general, we can kind of have a whole sidebar about the refereeing. It's not great. I don't know what to tell you, but this was by far not the worst, because we have Saints-Rams for perpetuity as the measuring stick of the worst possible way that a game could be decided. And until we have one worse than that, I'm not really sure it's worth getting that worked up.
No, and I think there is something. So the pushback, and I'll be referee guy, I'll be referee conspiracy theorist against you in this debate, Drew.
Okay.
Say, well, that one was clearly, a penalty we should call. But all the other calls got the Chiefs in that position. Like the Chiefs got the benefit of the whistle most of the game. They probably should have been losing at that point. And it should have been a Hail Mary attempt or a field goal to tie at best. Which they did get the benefit of the, let's just call it shitty officiating. There's no refs that are like, hey, we want Kansas City to win, or we're rigging this game for Vegas. It's just bad officiating. And I don't even want to use the word bad. I want to use the word inconsistent, because they're 50-year-old men who have to watch this in full time. They don't get to see all the replays you guys have to do at home.
Yes.
It's crazy being down there. I've helped I helped a guy, or I knew a guy, and he showed me how the chains work. That's stressful. Like, just running the chains is stressful. Like, I can't do that. No, that guy, honestly, God bless his heart. I don't know how he did it, but I could not imagine being a referee.
Yeah. And I guess the people who have a bone to pick with the refs, it was cumulative.
For sure.
If you didn't already know and factor into your handicap that there is a greater home field advantage in the playoffs, now you know. And part of that is because the way that the refs call the game and the influence that the crowd has, and the significance of the crowd has on certain things being called and being observed and being accentuated. So it's a factor. I would also say that the kind of the loss of confidence in the refs, I think, from everyone who cares and watches football in the game, came on the redo the 3rd and 9, which was one of the more bizarre plays, because no one in the entire
we've seen that 100 times, Drew.
Yeah.
but we never see the play get that far.
Never.
We've seen the ball get snapped a million
never
times.
See the offense come off the field and the punter take the field, and then they said
they
no.
got so deep into that.
That was a mess. Yes, that was a mess.
This is just more evidence that I should never ref a game. At that point, I'm just like, I would have just been like, that play happened.
It
I don't give a
happened,
shit. Like,
yeah.
I'm not going, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
Replay it? What are we going to
Yeah.
give them a redo? That's ridiculous. So
Yeah,
that
they
was
didn't get
super
it.
odd.
Yeah. That was
And then
odd. That was a kind of the start of the loss of confidence. And then there's a lot of people pointing to like a missed block in the back on the punt return. That was ticky tack. I didn't think that one was
a lot of the
egregious
holding and the
miss.
stuff like that was
A lot of the
ticky-tack.
and actually a lot of the people kind of saw holding penalties that maybe by letter of the law weren't holds. So maybe just take a deep breath here.
No, and Patrick is right. There's a ref running his ass off from like the left cornerback's position, trying to like kill the play, and it's crazy how far that play went. I don't think the other ref saw him.
Yeah, no, it was that was wild. Anyway, the general spirit of the game, though, I thought the Chiefs came out with a good game plan. I like the way they looked in the first half, but I thought they left a lot of points on the field. I thought they kind of didn't really take the opportunity they had to really cut the head off the Bengals early in this one, because you know who was not good and not cool and not clutch in the first quarter of this game? Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow was bad out of the gate. It took him at least a quarter to really kind of find his groove and really kind of have any answers. And a ton of it was because the pressure of the Chiefs D-line. They were in his face early and often. There was a number of sacks early in this game. What, he sack on every third down pretty much for the first couple of drives here.
They adjusted nicely, like in late second into the third. But then again, at the very end of the game, to stop that final Bengals drive was, we had a big sack on third down.
Yeah, there was there were the pressure was heavy on him early, and it really kind of did help open the door for the Chiefs. But the Chiefs really didn't convert on a lot of stuff. They kick a field goal on the first drive, followed up with a field goal in the second drive after a touchdown gets nullified. Oh, by the way, if you're gonna do a full accounting of penalties, Chiefs had both a touchdown and interception nullified in this game because of penalties. So take a deep breath there. But yeah, they get 6 points instead of 14. They realistically could have gone into half with a big enough lead that this game would have been over. Instead, it went into half somewhat close. We talked about it at halftime. It did not feel like the Bengals were out of it at all, despite all of the public win probability models saying so. And then suddenly it was tied. And at that point, you're thinking, oh, God, we have a problem. But the ensuing Chiefs drive where they scored the touchdown on fourth and I'm trying to remember. Oh, the touchdown was only a third down, I guess. What was the touchdown that
Tony dropped one?
Oh yeah, okay. I was thinking the fourth and one touchdown was in the first half to Kelsey. That was pretty unbelievable. The touchdown to Valdez-Scantling was really it's just an absolute cannon
that
of a
was
throw
one
from
of those.
him.
It's the moment you have every game with Patrick Mahomes. Like, shit, he did something I didn't think people could do.
Yes, yeah. Both the two touchdown passes he threw in this game were unreal.
And I know, so like maybe there's you have to go to real big edge cases to kill this argument.
Sure.
Like, obviously, if you bet the Colts money line against the Vikings, I don't think there's maybe a worse feeling in betting this year. If you put a lot of money on a rushing prop and he loses it on the kneel downs, like that sucks.
That sucks.
But that happens.
Yeah.
I think the most consistent, like, shitty feeling in sports betting on NFL football is when your team is, you bet on a favorite or dog, doesn't matter. You bet on the team, they come out and look really good on offense, and the other team looks bad on defense, on their offensive possessions. You get through 4 possessions and it's 6-0.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we had here. Through the first 4 drives, Kansas City had 100 yards of offense.
Mm-hmm.
Cincinnati had -10. And it was 6-0. And, especially with a team with Joe Burrow and those receivers and everything they've been able to do this year, it just felt like, oh my God, this game, like, I thought the game was done at 6-0. I'm like, well, you used your good script, you used your good offense, you got 2 fucking field goals. Like, you're dead. It's the joke people have been making for years about Kansas City. You don't beat Kansas City kicking field goals. You don't beat anybody with a good offense kicking field goals. So 6-0 was just, again, your team's winning. I didn't have the action on the side. I just had some futures, but it just felt gross at that point to be playing that well. And that was a big part of what, kept this game close for a long time, along with I don't know that we'll ever be able to sit down and say that was the best play that Patrick Mahomes will ever make in his life, because he kind of seems to keep one-upping that here and there.
Yes.
But I can probably say that was the worst play. Like, just the
fumble. Yeah.
Not only the fact that it was just an embarrassing fumble, the fact that it fell right in front of him and somehow he just couldn't fall on it.
Yeah.
Like, he just couldn't get the ball. Like, it was horrible. It was just a dreamlike state right there watching
that whole game. Drive was cursed, man. They had every opportunity. They get the 25-yard pass to Scanling, and then after the play, the 15-yard taunting penalty. Oh, by the way, another penalty against the Chiefs that mattered. 15-yard taunting penalty for a guy doing jumping jacks or whatever.
The taunting stuff has been.
The taunting was weird.
Like, there's been 4 or 5 spots this year where it's like, all right, yeah, you had to call that. That guy was being an absolute jackass after the play.
Yeah.
But they've called a few this year where it's like, I don't know what the rule is.
Yeah. And then the fumble was ridiculous because, if the Chiefs drive cleanly and there's no penalty and no fumble, they put up a touchdown there, then game's pretty much in the books. But that set the Bengals up for the game scoring touchdown. It's 20-20 instead of 27-13. And now at this point in the game, the Chiefs have been accruing injuries. Like, it's going out of business. They have lost wide receiver 2, 3, and 4 at this point. Juju, Tony, and McCall Hardman all gone. So yes, this is now emergency, kind of emergency relief wide receiver depth testing. Travis Kelce, by the way, all playing through back spasms, which was a surprise that I did not see coming during the week leading up to the game. And I thought realistically, the Chiefs offense looked dead. They looked dead. Who they had from a personnel standpoint did not match up against the way that the Bengals were intended to play defense. And 8 plays, 18 yards punt, 7 plays, 50 yards punt, 4 plays to finally end the game with the field goal, largely thanks to the penalty. It was not good offense from them once they were down all those many receivers. And I don't know, man. They couldn't really get the running game going. Pacheco looked like he got popped a couple times. Might have gotten a head injury at one point. It didn't feel like they were going to get there, and that this game was going to go to OT, and/or Bengals were going to hit the game-ending field goal to win 23-20. But the defense stepped up. The Kansas City Chiefs defense ultimately won the game, I thought, with the plays that they made on the Bengals' second to last drive.
I will give them some credit too. There was some pretty good tackles, like in spots.
Yes, there were.
Just 1v1 where if he doesn't take him down, it's 15 more yards, or it's a first down rather than 3rd and 4 kind of thing. Setting up third downs is just as important as getting them off the field on third down. The defense was great, especially the pass rush when they were, early on when they were able to just get free run at a few of them. God, the guards were so bad. There was double teams that were just getting split like coconuts. It was a rough hang for the offensive line. What we thought we'd get some of last week. Apparently the snow maybe did matter a little, and obviously late in the game, a big sack to get them there too. Mm-hmm. Another nitpick, and maybe you can push back on this, or somebody in the chat, or if you're listening to this later, savage me on Twitter. I'm kind of out on using Sky Moore that much. Let me check this. Patrick Mahomes threw the ball 43 times. 7 of those were to Sky Moore. I know we had some depth issues, but it was happening early too. All of those plays were rough. Okay, he had like 3 catches for 10 yards, man. I'm not a big Sky Moore as a gadget play guy. They always draft this type of wide receiver too, where it's like, he's kind of gadgety and we're going to use him in some jet sweeps and stuff too. And it's like, you can't have 8 of those guys. You need a normal wide receivers guy.
Yeah, I mean, Sky Moore was a mistake waiting to happen, it felt like, all game. So I'm glad he didn't make the killer mistake. On the flip side, Marquez Valdes-Scantling put together an all-time performance.
Yeah,
did not know he had that in him. He elevated the entire offense, I thought, with his quality of play. and he did it against a really good pass defense. So really hat tip to Marquez Valdez-Scantling. He's going to need to bring that again in the Super Bowl for the Chiefs to win. I agree with your other picks.
That's why Tony, if this hamstring is long term, it's massive because it forces a lot more Sky usage.
Yeah, it really does. So quick thoughts. It felt pretty poetic that the key third down on the drive that the that the Chiefs were going to win the game was a Mahomes scramble. 5-yard scramble from him at the end of the game was wild, even beyond, set aside the penalty. The fact that the Chiefs blew a bunch of timeouts in this game shouldn't have surprised anyone. That was very characteristic Andy Reid. And honestly, the fact that he won that challenge that he won in the second half and had that timeout at the end of the game mattered a ton. But from what I hear, that was the right call, I guess. I don't know. The question I guess I have for you is too much being made of the Mahomes or the 15-yard penalty? Because like Butker is a good kicker. It was that kick he kicked wouldn't have been good from 60, but if you have one more play and you get whatever you get out of it and you go spike the ball, Butker's still making a 50+ yarder, isn't he? Like the Mahomes scramble, I feel like outside of the penalty, the scramble
there was still
itself
8 seconds. Like if you could get, you're gonna get somebody like you run Kelsey like he's gonna veer towards the sideline. Yeah. He's gonna pull coverage, and you get fucking somebody Sky Moore or something out on the sideline.
Noah Gray.
The kickers. A couple of the kickers are like, oh, that's why you punted. Like, guy barely has it today. So Dan has a good question. I don't know how he's time for questions producing a show. Look at this guy. Jack of all trades. I know Andy Reid has been to 3 previous Super Bowls. A lot of people didn't know that. He coached the Eagles, guys. But would you? Oh my God!
We got ourselves a little reunion of sorts.
Between that and the Kelsey stuff, it's gonna be worse than the Harbaugh Bowl. Continued from Dan. But would you take Sirianni over him when it comes to in-game decision making? Probably. There's
Sirianni over him. Yes.
Sirianni for sure. Andy's puts together a great game plan. Timeouts and challenges continue to be a puzzle while he's thinking about drawing mustaches on guys or something. The running, the only thing, that is a good dig on Sirianni. Putting Hurts in harm's way 75 times late in the game was kind of rough, but Andy Reid puts together a mean game plan. How about the lateral thing? That was almost disaster too. The fact that they just put that right away in the game, like, hey, we're going to run this lateral.
Hook and ladder.
I hope to see some sort of, spin on that play in the Super Bowl where that was like a setup. I don't know what's going to happen, but I want it. I want to be on record now for that.
Okay. I mean, Sirianni, I didn't think coached an especially good game in the NFC Championship game because he didn't have to. Just like Hurts didn't play an especially good game because he didn't have to.
His entire catalog.
Yeah, his entire catalog, though, I would say he's a better game decision maker than Andy Reid for sure. And again, like, it's obviously the 15-yard penalty kind of put that game on ice, but I still think it was, it was a realistic chance that the Chiefs were going to get some shot at a field goal with one more play in particular, and then new fresh set of downs. End of the game, kickoff. We didn't get a pitchy woo woo. They blew that thing dead quick. Bengals teaser survives.
The teasers, the under, everything. Oh my God. I thought when he had the ball, I'm like, oh my God, this is happening. Because I've been the beneficiary of it. I was fine with being the beneficiary of it. That maybe put that on the list of like worst feelings. Somebody needs to do a top 10 list for that. Tag me in that if you tweet out a top 10 list. That's up there. The pitchy woo woo bad touchdown that costs you. I mean, there was a safety earlier in the season that moved aside the Jets game.
Jets Dolphins the week 18 or whatever.
There's been a few of these where it's gotten weird at the end.
Hey, one other thing to note, we snapped our undefeated halftime bet streak. We lost our Burrow look, and what was annoying about that? if he just throws the ball away a couple times instead of getting
instead of
intentional
running,
grounding, instead of running, or instead of
he
getting
was
sacked,
like 1 or 2 short.
Yeah, he's
I still think it was a good bad.
The intentional grounding. Like if you just don't throw it at the ground to no one, just throw it out of bounds to no one. It's, like there was a lot of Burrow stuff at the very end of the game that I thought he was a little choky. But he's done enough amazing things in his career at this point. I don't think you really hold that against him. I come out of this game thinking Burrow's going to be back here many, many, many times, and interested to see what the Bengals do with their offseason, because they have a very competitive division in front of them all of a sudden. Of course, depends on what the Baltimore Ravens do with the quarterback position. But what was your initial take on this opener, KC minus 2.5?
I mean, I was shorter than you were. I was closer to, I was actually on the short side of 2, but I still said 2 because it's Kansas City. But I get that they had some injuries. I could not fathom that much Eagles money coming in. I'm forced to respect it because, the limits were low to start, but I mean, basically everywhere that takes decent action is 6 figures right now.
Oh yeah.
You can go bet 100,000. You can at Chris, you can bet more than that at Pinnacle. Circa is going to take big limits on this. And even the sports books that don't take big limits all throughout the season are going to let you bet a lot more money. And I know there's going to be a lot more dumb, uninformed, hey, I have a lot of cash and want to bet a lot on the Super Bowl money, but they still understand. That's why people who make these huge, these huge Super Bowl bets, like the Mattress Mac types, that sort of thing, those don't move the lines because the liability is just never going to be thrown off that much. Like these books take so much action and they're going to clean up everywhere else. It doesn't really matter. But if they take a bunch of, $20,000 bets from the right people, then they're going to move the lines. So it is a little concerning that, once limits went up, it still was pretty heavy Eagles. I know it's settled a little down. It's come back down. There has been some KC money. We're down to plus 10 on the money line, pretty much plus 2 in the market. But I guess it's the injuries are important, and everyone thinks Jalen Hurts is fine. I still think with the injuries, I make this game a pick 'em.
Okay.
So I did, like I said, I have Kansas City futures.
Okay.
But for transparency purposes, I'm like, I shouldn't add to this. Like, why would I bet Kansas City now if I have them at, I did some exacta, like Kansas City beats the Eagles before the week. And so I have Kansas City at like 8 or 7 or 8 or something. Like, nice. I don't need more, but just out of principle, I took a little plus 120.
Okay. All right, good. All right. We agree. Let's kind of go through this piece by piece then. We'll start with the injuries. I expect Gay back.
Yep.
I expect Snead back, but that is a little bit of a reach because
it's a concussion,
we care about brain health a lot now. Yeah. I expect Snead back. I expect Tony out. I am 50-50 on Juju. I'm 50-50 on Hardman, but I think of the two, Hardman more likely to be back. I expect Mahomes to be 100%. I expect his scrambling to be perfectly fine. He will use his legs in this game. And then on the Eagles side, injuries. Am I missing anyone injury-wise for the Chiefs?
Pacheco, he got dinged up a little.
Yeah, I think he's going to play through it.
I think he's fine. That's 2 weeks.
Yeah. He's like the dinosaur with the
AJ. There was
bone on his head that they headbutt each other. Yeah.
On Chris, to point out too, it did get to plus 125 at a certain point. I just sat up for like an hour and a half watching the screens last night. That was weird. And I had some plus 125 in the queue. It didn't. Somebody got it well before I did.
Yeah. So I think Pacheco goes. I think on the Eagles side, I don't know that you're getting accurate passing out of Jalen Hurts. That is a huge question mark in my head. I do not rate him. And I'm not even saying that that's the reason why I would make KC minus 2.5. It's a factor, but I do not think you can expect 100% passing efficiency from Hurts, given what we've seen from him in his playoffs. Really what we've seen from him in his post-Bears sample. Like his 2 games against the Giants and his game against the Niners, like just 200 yards of passing offense against the Giants, 148 against the Giants, 121 against the Niners. Like, it's not part of the game plan right now, and some of that may be because of what he's capable of. I'm starting to think that wasn't an AC sprain, but potentially like a clavicle fracture. It doesn't look good. Like, his body language, his face, everything is telling you that something is not right when he's throwing the ball.
That one hit, man. The one hit on the run where he took it in the back.
Yeah,
he looked bad. He looked a little. He was grimacing.
Yeah.
After that one, for sure.
Was there an Eagles offensive lineman who got hurt late in the game? I wasn't really watching, so I wasn't watching closely to the O-line. But there was a guy who was down at one point, and it looked like it might have been bad. But
I'm trying to think which one it was.
I didn't see any report of it.
There was a guard that trotted off for a bit.
Like, that was who I was thinking of. He was a guard, left guard, maybe. Isaac Samalo, maybe. I don't know. I couldn't rate. Left guard is Landon Dickerson's 6 name. Was it him? Was it Landon Dickerson?
Yeah, and
I don't know.
And also the fact is, like, Lane Johnson is playing very hurt, and I don't want to take away from him. Landon Dickerson, there you go. Lane Johnson still has a groin injury. Like, those things.
He has an adductor. Yeah, he's basically a sports hernia.
Those things, like having anything in your core or your groin, those things do not heal by playing football. Like, he is just gutting it out till the end of the season. Like, he is playing hurt for sure, and he is. I mean,
look, I'm going to go down with the Chiefs in the Super Bowl one way or the other, because I believe that Jalen Hurts is playing hurt. And I don't think that he can go score for score with Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs if they're having a good day. And maybe I'm overlooking some things, and that's entirely possible. That happens. I've lost Super Bowls before. I think I bet Brady and company, and last time the Eagles won the Super Bowl, I was on Patriots. So it's, I'm not, the end all be all playoff, end boss originator. Anyway.
Yeah, and so, Sam, I thought I'd read this too, that it's not an AC sprain. It's turned into hockey injury reports where they can just say lower body injury out for tonight. Like, the same thing goes with Mahomes, to be fair. Like, a high ankle sprain for years and years and years, a high ankle sprain was death for a month. Like, 3 weeks was a very rosy projection. So the fact was, that was never a high ankle sprain, because even the way he moved, like, you're not moving like that if you sprain it up high like that. It was definitely played up a lot more. It was one of those injuries that looked a lot worse at the beginning because he was so hobbled. The fact that I think if he never would have gone back out on the field and hobbled around for those 3 plays, it wouldn't have gotten so much. It wouldn't have gotten blown out of proportion. If he just sat down, just let him, hey, I just need some tape, and he looked like he did in the second half. Maybe he had to go to the injury tent and get a quick shot. I think that wouldn't have been blown out of proportion like it was, and the line might have been different in the title game.
Yeah, I think so too. Here's kind of the way I want to frame this. Then we've covered the injuries and what we think is going to happen. The lead up to this matchup, I expected, again, we were going to see KC as a favorite. I was kind of salivating, like, man, if KC looks really good against the Bengals, maybe we'll get Philly at like +3, right? Like, I was kind of in the back of my head. And it went the other way because presumably the results of the championship games, which is, if that's even influencing it, then fucking hell, we are the stupidest people. This is the stupidest exercise of all time. But I was kind of resigned to, I'm going to have to make a case for the Eagles because I think I like their matchups better. And I just figured that this was going to be a score for score type of environment. And it was going to go, into the 50s. And this team with the ball last wins. And maybe the Eagles D-line, because they have so much depth and so many waves, they could ultimately make the game stopping play. And I was basically just reliving the past Eagles in my head, that was the way that the Chiefs Eagles was going to go. And then after seeing the way Hurts played, no way. I want nothing to do with the Eagles any way, shape, or form. And I kind of can't believe that the market is giving us this opportunity. Now, the last Eagles Super Bowl, Andy, you remember, like, I didn't think that the Eagles were the sharp side along people we talked to. There was a lot of, there were some professional groups that took the 6, but there was a lot of public volume of people who were just Eagles hardcores that bet like money line and stuff like that, that really kind of were making liabilities uncomfortable. And that's the first time I really heard people kind of dive into, well, the Super Bowl is a standalone event. It's not really like the normal markets because there's so much money that it can push things around. And, you know, that's kind of in the back of my head here is you just have enough of a fan gambling, you know, Venn diagram of Eagles fans that, you know, this is going to be a highly bet side, irrespective of what the fare is. And we're in this no man's land under 3 either way. Who cares? Might as well just charge anyone who wants. Yeah, you might as well just charge everyone who wants to bet Eagles minus 130, right? Like if you're going to get a bigger proportion of Eagles bets anyway, and you think that, right? Is any of that check out to you, or do you think that this is much more
for sure?
Like some smart people were like, nope, Eagles need to be favored because they're the better team.
No, and they do have a bunch of advantages, but still, Andy Reid, I don't know if you've heard this, but the saying does not go Nick Sirianni off a bye. And Andy Reid with 2 weeks to game plan, getting to watch, you know, watching the Niners film, watching the Giants film, seeing what they can do, especially against the run. I do wonder about this total now that I look at it. Like, I got to look at some red zone stuff defensively and see how they were able to, like, you know, the Chiefs in the red zone versus a good rushing attack, which is maybe a smaller sample size that I shouldn't be looking at anyway. But these are like 2 of the top 5 red zone offenses in the league. Mm-hmm. Like if they're moving the ball between the 20s, 50 isn't going to hold them. So I did kind of agree with the under getting hit with some of the injuries. But if the injuries go well offensively, it's something. And again, if Mahomes is like, you know, like 90% of himself after 2 weeks to rest, you take a lot of those. Like, yeah, it's great that the Eagles have a great offensive line, but you know, you still have, we have a Hulk. You know? Mahomes just so good. If he can move a lot better and extend the play, and we'll have no idea. Maybe we'll get some shots from practice of him running around, but it's very tough. And again, I still think it should be around to pick them just for the breadth of their entire work for the entire season. If you want to presuppose Mahomes is healthier in 2 weeks than he was yesterday.
And Hurts might be too. Yeah.
Yeah. And as well as Hurts, it's still a pick 'em to me. I think at this point,
indoor,
I don't feel like we're getting all the receivers.
Controlled environment. Like you take the cold
Tony
weather out of it. Like these 2 teams have played in some cold weather lately and some low scoring environments. Now it's going to be controlled, fast surface. Both of these teams played in Arizona this year, Andy. I don't know if you remember, but the Chiefs season started and is ending in Glendale, Arizona. The start, of course, was they were, I believe, 4-point favorites on the road against the Cardinals. That was my best bet of the week for the match.
Oh yeah, the Cardinals. The Cardinals just had to blitz like 40 times, and they just got to look at the ball fly over their heads.
Just a delight, an absolutely delightful game. So yeah, Pat Mahomes and company took the show to Arizona and were outstanding week 1. The Eagles took the show on the road to the Cardinals week 5, got a hard fought 20-17 win over the Cardinals before. And that was the game that preceded a matchup against the Cowboys. So I give the Eagles a little bit of a pass there for looking ahead. But both teams have familiarity with the you know, playing in this arena. So there's going to be, you know, something to lean on as far as offenses, sight lines, things like that. Generally, this looks like an over and Chiefs, and you either go 1-1 or 2-0. This is either score and answer and the Chiefs get the, you know, Chiefs have the ball last and win or lose, or it's a game state where the Chiefs can really put some serious scoreboard pressure on the Eagles and the Eagles can't answer because Hurts can't throw. That's kind of the way I see this. I don't think there realistically is a game state where the Eagles do what they did yesterday and win while holding the Chiefs to under 10 points. It's under 20 points. Yeah. I don't know. I don't see it. I mean, you have so much more substantial offensive line working for you here with the Chiefs than they had against the Bucks. just feels like a very different matchup. I think the secondary for the Eagles can be passed on. I think the Chiefs players on defense can make plays. You got a lot of guys that can either get to the quarterback or come away with impressive interceptions. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I'm sure you guys in the chat maybe saw this too. The Purdy news came through. Torn UCL. That is, if I'm not correct, yeah, it's the Tommy John surgery. So I guess
Andy,
I had a conspiracy theory that I couldn't say out loud.
Holy shit!
Because it's fucked up and terrible.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I was like looking at the game because I'm like, he's still kind of throwing and he doesn't look like he's hurt. I'm like, I'm sure I'm wrong because I'm not a doctor, but if you like just make this run and you win all these games and then you get kind of hurt, I was thinking like I would just be like, I'm done. Like you're not taking this run away from me. I'm not ending this on a flat note. Like, oh man, look what Josh Johnson did. That's not good. I would have won this game. Like I would just been like, like Dangerfield on Caddyshack. Oh my arm.
I was here's what I'm thinking
who's
now.
Your starter? Who's your baseball people in the chat?
How
long does the Tommy John take?
It's Brock Purdy. He's going to come back with his noodle arm is going to be now like rookie of the year.
Oh, funky butt loving.
Yeah, he's going to be a much, there's guys that get the UCL at UCL and they come back and they're throwing 99 heat. I feel like this could be a positive upgrade for Purdy in the long run.
Is that a cadaver one?
I don't know, man.
I don't know how that works. I would just can you pick the cadaver? Make sure the guy had a wicked right arm,
Yeah.
Because I mean, not every cadaver ligament is going to be as good.
Of course.
I mean, they're NFL players. They probably get the best ligaments.
They probably get the best ones. Yeah, I'm sure they do. But whatever the case is, this feels rookie of the year-ish to me, where Purdy comes back stronger than ever.
Yeah, and to be fair, DFG, we're not saying he wins rookie of the year. We're saying the movie
rookie of the year. Yes, guys.
Yeah, I don't know what I have no idea what the Tommy John that's what I'm asking. Baseball.
Yeah, some of the baseball people. Yeah, it's a year. It could be 18 months for some of the. But you're a pitcher. It's a little different. There's a lot more forces. Yeah.
And to be fair, and Bert Blyleven taught me this. Throwing overhand is unnatural to the human body. This joint, look at how your arm hangs and look how high it goes without putting extra pressure on it. Like throwing overhand is not a natural motion for the way the arm's supposed to work. Yeah. So I mean, it just stresses everything. So comeback player of the year, guys.
Last Josh Allen had a UCL. He played through it. I guess it wasn't a complete tear.
I said complete tear. It made it quite clear. Complete.
In Drew Brees had a torn UCL. Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh no, that was a thumb. That was a thumb UCL. That was not an elbow UCL.
That's a whole different part of your body.
That's a whole different part.
I don't know.
I mean, realistically,
we'll wait for Dr. Chow to finish happy hour and chime in.
Yeah. Well, it's very early for happy hour in San Diego, Andy. It's the liquid lunchtime here. The general kind of thoughts, I guess, that we've covered for the Super Bowl. Lean over, lean Chiefs. I bet the Chiefs already. I got
that's a good call. Big Ben did have the Tommy John.
Yes, he did.
It got lost in the shuffle because Big Ben's injury list is like Josh Johnson's stops in the NFL list.
Ben said he didn't have the Tommy John. He was on record that he didn't have it.
So he had, I think he had the
procedure. He had the procedure or whatever.
Constructed it or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it was semantic. Yeah, semantic. All right. Well, the general vibe I get is that the Eagles are in for a tough time, I think. And maybe the overall talent on the team is enough to overcome what I think is a pretty significant disparity at the quarterback position, but we shall see. Any other fun stuff you're looking forward to?
Well, let's talk about the game state quick. Let's just say Mahomes is at 70 or 80% of peak Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say Hurts' shoulders may be dinged up, but he doesn't look as shitty as he did in the second half.
Okay.
Game state wise, and I know we're not big prop guys. I play props sometimes when it's just glaring, but I mean, and we don't even know what some of the numbers are. Like, but what do you think? Game state. Who does the game state? The most likely game states. Who do they benefit as far as just numbers? Like, are we looking at some maybe some Eagles backup running back overs if those are low, because they have seemed to cycle through. Even when they're not. Yeah, even when they're not like in a game state where they're beating the shit out of somebody like last week, they have been in the second half giving more touches to everybody. I don't know. I'm gonna have to look for. Again, if you're in the chat, drop them. If you want to drop them on the YouTube comments, if you want to hit them on Twitter, if you have some good props, let me know. We'll get to some props heavy next week when more of them are released. The biggest thing, I guess, is everybody thinks the anthem is low. Last time, everybody was super sure about an anthem. Was, gosh, what was her name? Gladys Knight. Was it Gladys Knight that did
in Detroit? Yeah,
and they were off by like $1 billion. Like the general thesis, I believe, was she's too old.
I remember that.
She crushed it the other way. But like it went.
She held the note for 20 seconds longer than she had to.
Yeah, it was something. So
Rockets Red Glare.
I'm not getting nuts on any of the props yet. I know the over 2.5 players to throw a pass is maybe fun with some
Travis Kelce throwing a dime.
Yeah, I mean, and there's some unique plays that have come out of these two franchises over the last few years. Gatorade color, people have been posting the picture of the orange Gatorade a couple years ago. Yeah. Orange Gatorade took some steam. That's down. Yeah, not sure the Eagles. I think the Eagles have been yellow or red. I can't remember.
We'll have to go look at what Dougie P got dunked with, because there's still a lot of veterans on that Eagles team. I don't think they would change this is probably still strength and conditioning coaches and the people that are doing, the staffers that are doing the Gatorade. Probably.
I just remember I had an account I was betting into that obviously it was being used by other people for some sharp prop stuff. And that I don't know who in their right mind was running that skin or setting those limits, but there was a pending bet for like 2 weeks on purple at like 15-1, and I think they were able to get like $1,500 down on purple. Like, it was an obscene number for Gatorade. Like, it would have been a big win on the purple. I remember I didn't even have any purple. I was cheering for that one to hit.
I just looked at the Eagles. I see yellow. Doug Peterson got a yellow bath against the Patriots. I just saw. I was just watching on YouTube just 6 seconds ago. All right. Well, we'll get to the bottom of this.
Props will be next week. For sure.
The one thing that I do think is worth kind of looking at into a little bit of detail for thinking about game state, Andy. We have a not so distant game between these two teams that was really, really good, I thought. October 3rd, 2021, Chiefs took on the Eagles week 5-ish, week 4, week 5. Chiefs went into that game 7-point favorites in the link. The total was 54.5. Final score was Chiefs 42, Eagles 30, but that did not really communicate how competitive a lot of this game was. It was at one point 28-23 in the fourth quarter. Eagles were very feisty in this one. In the end, they had a total of 461 yards of total offense to Kansas City's 471 yards. Jalen Hurts had an incredible game. 387 through the air, 2 touchdowns. He got sacked 3 times. He picked up 47 yards on the ground. His heavy targets in this game, interestingly enough, there was a lot of Kenneth Gainwell in that game. He got targeted 8 times, caught 6 passes for 58. He also ran 3 for 31 in a touchdown. Devontae Smith was heavily targeted. A ton of tight end targets, but that's just kind of characteristic Eagles. Pat Mahomes was one of his better games as a pro. 5 touchdowns. He was unstoppable. He hit Tyreek Hill 3 times. He had a Jody Fortson touchdown pass, and then Clyde Edwards-Helaire also caught one. So Travis Kelce had a pretty quiet game despite the unbelievable amount of offense that we saw in that one. The Kansas City Chiefs did whatever they wanted against Philly's defense. Philly's defense was vanilla, and it was beaten like a drum. And I think that is helping some of my confidence in Kansas City getting it done this week.
Yeah. I'm going to have to talk myself into this over yet. I'm going to need some good news on a couple players.
Oh, yeah, surely.
I did immediately thought this, this total opened a bit high, and it did take some money to the under. Probably a live bet. Man, you don't know how many times I almost live bet the over last night because I had a terrible number. I got a 47. I'm going to start doing that. Every time I get a really shitty number, it comes through.
Yeah.
The Bills one from a few weeks back.
Mm-hmm.
Then this one I had 47. It closed like 49 at some places. And, overtime clearly.
Patrick asks, is that when Eagles had no secondary? They had the entire exact secondary they have now outside of they didn't have CJGJ and they didn't have Bradbury, who they added this year, but Slay was on the field, Nelson was on the field, Maddox was on the field, Rodney McLeod and Anthony Harris were the safeties. So basically the same defense scheme personnel wise outside of Bradbury and CJGJ. Yeah. Yeah. So we got some anthem work to do. We got some halftime show work to do. We got some Gatorade recon to do, and then hopefully we rake on this mispriced Super Bowl, which seems impossible.
Yeah. A lot to take in. It feels like a million years from now too. And somebody did real quick. I starred a couple. Somebody brought up the Pro Bowl. I'm going to give it a chance.
What's that?
Well, no, because they're doing like the quarterback challenge shit again, but a little different. They're gonna have them like golf and stuff. I'll probably pay attention. Yeah,
really?
They're not playing because it makes no sense. Like football's too violent to play a game. Remember when Sean Taylor wrecked that guy in the Pro Bowl? Like a punter. That's not what we need because enough players get hurt during competitive games. So, like they're gonna go make them pay like Bar Olympics essentially.
Yeah.
Like, go play. Golf and a bunch of other shit. I don't know. And then,
what price is cleavage good to? Minus 800
million.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some cleavage.
She does not dress conservatively. That's a nice way to put it. I mean, that'll be. Bet Online usually hangs a few of those. For sure, they're going to have to just juice the shit out of that. Yeah, I don't think you'll get a cheap price on cleavage. I know there's some hair color stuff up. There's which song she'll sing first that's up. Sometimes we haven't always been able to get that info, but a few years back, I believe it was Maroon 5, we got the set list.
Got the inside info.
That was fun. Again, you can't bet much on it, but it's still, I don't care if they only let you bet $50. It's still such a rush to have the info and know it's happening.
Oh, it's except the best. It does. Yeah, that's quite sucky.
That stings.
Okay, so that's cool. I didn't know that they were going to do like skills with like golf and stuff. That's fun.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look up what the Pro Bowl is. Have you seen the commercial with the Mannings?
No,
it's gonna be called,
dude. I'm so out of it on commercials. I can't listen to the broadcast objectively. I ruin it for everyone else. So we usually just have music on, and then I'm watching it with, like just my own interpretation because I can't listen to the broadcast. I don't get the Whopper jokes. I don't get the Manning jokes. I don't get any of the jokes.
Romo can no longer do important games. He has to do like a middle of the week game that's not going to be any fun. Because when the game got like he was out of control. It was like a 6-year-old on like speed, just screaming and getting way too excited. But the skill competition, it'll be all the players who qualified for the Pro Bowl, and then I think there's a draft. They're going to do 7-on-7 flag football. And a bunch of other, skill competition stuff. Which
Patriots running back Robert Edwards had a career-ending injury playing flag football at the Pro Bowl.
Yeah,
it was in the sand, though. You shouldn't play on the beach. No, 300-pound pros. No.
So it'll be in Vegas too. It's at Allegiant.
How about that?
That's something that is happening, guys. And then the other one I had starred was, do you think with the Purdy thing, like Jimmy G is just suddenly going to get Or maybe it's just Lance. Like Jimmy
Lance.
G probably still gets traded.
I don't think he gets traded. He's not under contract next year, is he? Isn't he a free UDFA? Not UDFA, but UFA.
Tag him. That'd make no sense. Yeah, Romo did say Jim. Like, we know it's Jim Nance. Jim?
Jeem is how he pronounces it. Jim. Yeah.
Yeah, Jimmy is a free agent. Well, good for him. He gets to go somewhere else.
Yeah, that is good for him. He's going to make a bunch of money, I'm sure. And they don't have high hopes for him after seeing what Purdy was able to do in the system with those weapons. NBA tonight.
I don't know, Jay.
Let me see what's on the accounts. It's still bettable. Yikes. Only thing that is bettable is Golden State against OKC is still bettable at 4.5. Everything else that I bet today is unplayable.
Well, I don't know, Jim. All right, I'm calling her a day. I got one.
All right, man.
One meeting yet to do here, and then I get some.
Hey, how about Sabalenka?
Yes, absolutely. I had a bad feeling. Like I went in with that. I didn't watch it live. I had a bad feeling.
It was an amazing match, but man, was it tough.
It was a lot better match to just watch.
Oh my goodness, it was tough. Phoenix is bettable too. Sorry, Phoenix against Toronto -1.5. Phoenix is bettable. Phoenix and Golden State. That's it for me.
We'll catch you guys later days, guys.
Yeah, I passed on our Magic, Spencer. Tough back-to-back for them. They got to play Philly on Monday and Wednesday. Philly's got them. When Tyrese Maxey 6 man of the year is on the floor against the Magic bench, it's going to be a problem.